Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Glenn, Mike, and Carole's back with us
table
today.
For three, man. It's
I know,
awesome.
This is fantastic.
Special table for three. I know. I just think, as I'm sitting here chatting with Carole, first time I've seen her on Facebook, but the first time in person since, grade school or whatever, high school or whatever. And it's just so great to connect, and it's so great to be able to share sober stories from the sober path.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing how this connection and reconnection works. And,
She's got great energy, doesn't she?
Oh
I'm
my
talking
gosh.
like she's not in the room.
I'm going to sit.
Let's just talk about it for a
No,
minute.
I'm just going to sit back and listen. I'm just going to sit back and learn.
I know, she's good stuff. Okay, welcome back, Carole.
Hey, Carole.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I
Morning it is.
Hope you had a good week in between coffees, and we're in Technoville, so.
The one thing for Carole is she's in a later time zone, so it's not as early for Carole
it's like
as it is for
lunchtime,
us.
right?
I know, totally.
Yeah, anything before 6:30 a.m. is just too early for me,
Yeah,
right?
that's awesome.
Well, Glenn has one of my favorite sayings, and that is that he used to curse the mornings, and now he craves them.
I do.
It gives me goosebumps when he says that.
No, I do. I mean, you know what? I would wake up, probably 3 o'clock in the morning. I have to get another drink, and just another day of alcoholic hell.
Yeah, right.
Just another pain in the head, and just, I can feel it just sitting here. And now I wake up, man, embracing the day, gratitude. I do my routine in the morning, and it's just so fantastic.
Crave them.
Yeah, so Carole, great to have you back on.
Yeah.
Thank you. And just continuing that theme, I know for at least the first year of being sober, every morning I woke up just grateful to not have a hangover, right? And today, I can still very vividly remember that feeling, and I don't know if I don't think I could survive it today.
I wish you could see Carole's face as she was
I
going.
know, it's all scrunched up, and it's like, who wants
so
that?
funny.
Yeah, who wants that?
All right, so if we could for our time today, so just to reframe for those that haven't heard last week, Carole's got 16-ish years, and she is a student of the Big Book. She's a believer in Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps. So what we thought we would do is bounce it to Carole. Mikey and I will learn, but bounce it to you from your favorite AA topic, your favorite step, your favorite promise.
Your favorite co-host of Sober.Coffee, whatever you want to talk about, really.
So just we'll turn it over to you. We'll chime in, once in a bit, but it just seems like you're full of passion for the Big Book, and just want to learn from you.
Yep. Love the energy.
Yeah, the Big Book to me is super important, and I think about the fact that, this book was written by the first 100, alcoholics, in 5 years. Bill Wilson was sober for 5 years when this book was written, and I think about the wisdom in here, and for me, it's been important, at least for the last 15 plus years, that I know the Big Book, right? Because this is the program, this is the solution as it was written down by our founders. And if I'm not careful, I could easily drift from this. And it's important for me to know for my own sobriety, but it's also important for when I work with other alcoholics, right? That I follow what's in here. It keeps my ego in check, and it reminds me that there is a program, right, that works, and it works when I follow it, and it works for my sponsees when they follow it, and I know, I make sure I go to a Big Book meeting every week, right, so that I'm surrounded by others that are very knowledgeable on this book, on this program, because I hear things sometimes that aren't in this book. Right? Like, there was a lot when I first came in that was, just don't drink and go to meetings, right? And I tried that, but that didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. Not drinking and going to meetings, I could do that on a very short-term basis, but that was not a long-term solution. So it was, the book, the steps as outlined in the book that really gave me that freedom that I needed so that I didn't need to drink, right? It dealt with the bedevilments that I had that were part of my spiritual disease, so that I could become a more serene person, so that, alcohol is not a solution for me anymore.
So, Carole, let me ask you this. Going to the big book, and clearly you're a believer of the big book, what do you say to the folks that go and they try to change the words of the big book?
I just...
I wish you could see her face.
I think to myself, when I first came in, there were things in here that I didn't relate to. There were words that I didn't relate to. And that's not a problem with the book. That's a problem with me. That's my alcoholism saying I'm different, or, it needs to be different, or that's my alcoholism. So when I hear people talking about changing the book, I get really sad about that. Because they don't think the book needs to be changed. I think we as alcoholics need to be more tolerant and need to be more understanding. And I don't think I know better than the first 100 people that had the foresight, the talent, the ability to write this book.
Yeah.
So could that
I
be?
haven't done it.
So could that be an initial surrender, right, for
Yes.
somebody coming in, or ego deflation? Right. I mean, we know some pretty smart people with a couple letters in their name, that are part of our circle. And they said, well, the big book should say this. And the minute I hear that, I'm thinking, okay, you're not surrendering. You're creating your own program the minute you start changing your words. So I love how you put that.
I love that too. And I also love the fact that, again, Glenn's the data guy, but I know that millions of people around the world in the past 80 plus years have found a better way to live by the words of that book.
Absolutely. And I've also learned, right, that one of the greatest things that I can do to find freedom and to be teachable is to say, well, maybe I don't know, right? Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't have the answer to exactly how this book should be written, and maybe I don't know better than our founders. And I wholeheartedly believe that when this book was written, it wasn't just the first 100 alcoholics. It was God inspired, working through them to give us this message. And I don't find offense to anything in this book.
Carole, I think that was part of my problem is for 50 years, I was brought up, Glenn, get the answer. Don't ask me for help. Don't ask for help. You figure it out. You fix it. Growing up with my dad, I remember him saying that. Growing up in business, don't come to me with a problem. You figure it out, right? And so I think for a number of years, even early in AA, I failed because I took the mantra, I've got this, right? And I'll figure this out, and I'll build this program to work for me when it's convenient for me. And then it was only, I got to a point, September of 2014, where I said, you know what, I will do whatever you tell me to do. And I listen and believe every word of that book and everything that book tells me to do, because I think it is divinely inspired to 100 people. And I'm telling you what, you couldn't get 100 people in a room today to agree on anything, to accomplish anything.
Absolutely. I agree to that. And even just my home group, right? We do a business meeting once a month, and you can't get agreement there on simple things. Do we have coins at the meeting, or do we not?
On
have
coffee
coins?
expense.
Right?
Totally.
Right?
How much is in the coffee kitty?
So, I find this amazing, and the other great thing about this book is each time that I read it, I find something new for me to learn, right? It's not a once and done for me, and the solution is clearly written out in here. So, even I turn the page, right, in We Agnostics, and, yes, we of agnostic temperament have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commence to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God, right? It kind of comes back to, maybe I don't know. I don't know exactly what God looks like, but I need to just be willing and be able to trust that God has this, right? I still have that, I got to figure this out, I got to get this done, right? That mentality, Glenn, that you talked about. But I also have it peppered with, I got to trust God. So, I just need to do my part today to move forward, right? Do the next right thing. Mm-hmm. And when I don't have the answer to something, I throw up prayers all day long. God, help me to know what to do here. Give me an intuitive thought. And it's amazing how that works.
It is amazing how that. Can I see your big book? Can you lift it up for me?
We were just
how
talking about
how long have you had it? Oh my goodness!
I love it.
That's a battered book.
This is my third book. My
That's
first
a great
book,
answer.
I went to Norristown State Hospital. There's I always forget if it's building 50 or 51 for homeless people, and we brought an AA meeting there, and there was a man that was very serious and listened, and they didn't have any big books there. I gave him my first book.
Wow.
So that has my name in it.
That's passing it on.
And I often think to myself, I have a feeling one day I'm going to see this guy.
Yeah.
And he's going to.
Right. That's awesome.
God, that amazes me. That is, I just got chills. That is wonderful, Carole.
Yeah, people are like, I can't believe you gave away your book. I'm like, that's the purpose, right? And it's not about how battered my book is, right? Or how much I have highlighted or anything like that, because I think there can be some people like that, right? That's ego.
Right.
It's about spreading the message.
Oh,
what was so freely given to me, right?
That is so outstanding. I mean, you just have such a commitment to this program, and I think the same thing as we were talking about at the beginning. There are words in there, fellas and gay, and it's a gay atmosphere. We'd be so politically incorrect the way we use some of the language. That's not the point. Look at what the context of look at what they're saying, So I'm good with it. I mean, look, it's worked. It's worked for this time, and I know I said before there's millions of people. I've seen with my own eyes this thing work for hundreds of people. I've seen with my own eyes, my own witness. I've seen it happen, and I see it happen with me.
So, Carole, just to jump in, we had for me. I mean, the whole higher power thing. I mean, my higher power was my counselor in my 4-month program in 14, right? My higher power was my sponsor. My higher power still is my sponsor. And then, I mean, it took me, I spent way too long on step 3. And I was trying to figure step 3 out, and that's not what step 3 says. Step 3 says, hey, just make a decision. It doesn't say figure it all out, right? But we went through, and just to tell you a funny story, Mikey and I go to the same church. And the God I grew up with didn't work for me. I mean, just didn't very judging, very damning, no forgiveness, and that's not the God I believe in today. And Mikey and I go to the same church. In Easter in 2015, we were in the same service. I was probably 9 months sober. Mikey was drunk, right? And we heard.
We didn't go together. We were totally separate
we didn't know each other.
Auditorium,
we didn't know each other,
no.
and yet we heard the same message, and the same message is, that I got out of it is, hey man, there's a real loving, accepting, forgiving God, the God of the prodigal son, right? The God of the woman at the well, the prostitute at the well, and I'm like, I can relate to those people, right? It's not the purple-hatted people, standing in the corner, And there was this dude. I mean, so we actually started a sister podcast, a cousin podcast, because people ask about spirituality, because the big book talks about God and talks about higher power. It doesn't give a ton of detail after that, right? And so we have a podcast called As We Understand Him. Just talking about, and there's 30 episodes or so.
Yeah.
Just kind of talking about, and we bring all kinds of guests on. I mean, just talking about us trying to figure it out. We're still trying to figure it out, but we're much better today. We're at least on the path, and it's working really well. So what we like to say is sobriety is our superpower, and our spirituality is our superpower. And it's amazing how it works.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And for me, I was kind of agnostic when, growing up. I had the same experience with religion. My parents thought it was very important that I have that religious upbringing, which I think was good. But, I found a lot of condemnation there, which didn't work for me.
Especially going through alcoholism, the last thing you need is condemnation.
Yeah, I had to take the whip off of my back, right?
I like that.
I had to take the whip off of my back. And, I found another church through my daughter before I got sober. And I would go to this church and I felt the presence of God for the first time. And it was the same thing. They were telling me Jesus sat with the sinners. Jesus sat with the sinners. And I thought, oh, then maybe he would sit with me, right? And I would go to this church and I would pray, God, help me to want to stop drinking. And I ended up being directed to AA. So, God gave me the solution.
You know what I always said? Because I had two foxhole prayers. I said, one, God, give me $1 million. And second thing was, God, please stop these shakes. And he didn't answer them the way I wanted him to answer them. I wanted the $1 million in my bank tomorrow, and I wanted to stop shakes. Instead, he answered both of them. He said, Glenn, I gave you talent. Go out and earn $1 million. He said, Glenn, I gave you the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Work the steps so you don't have to drink. And if you don't drink, you don't get the shakes. So I love how this works.
Yeah, the 12 steps took away my desire to drink, right? Today, I can be around alcohol. I have business meetings, I have social functions that I go to. I can't be around drunks. I find that I
have a low tolerance. Yeah.
Yeah.
30 minutes. 30 minutes for me.
I have a lot of. I connect to them, and I know their pain, and so I absorb into that pain. In closing, probably got a listener or two out here who doesn't know, maybe wants to take that first step. What does that first step look like for you? What do you recommend that person who alcohol isn't working for them anymore, and they need some hope, they need direction? What would you tell them to do today?
I would tell them what was told to me, find local AA meetings, go to those meetings, when you're walking away saying, I'm not like those people, or that's not going to work for me, keep going. Keep going. Find the people in the room that seem happy, joyous, and free, and ask them for help. I can remember walking up to people and say, you really don't want to drink today? Like, that just baffled my mind.
Sure.
That somebody could be an alcoholic and not want to drink. And I'd ask them, what did you do? And they said, I did the steps.
There you go.
Love it.
Ask
Love
for
it.
help, find the good people, 12-step meetings, big book meetings, just keep going.
Carole, we got to have you back on again.
Thank you so much for jumping on. I'm so proud of you, and you absolutely made my day. So thanks for coming on. Great to reconnect.
Well, that was easy to do.
Great to reconnect. Thanks for getting up early.
Sure.
Thanks,
For
Carole.
sure.
Have
Thanks for having
a
me.
great day.
Thanks, Carole.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago.